In higher ed, we are all looking for big wins, but reducing a 75% application abandonment rate and achieving a 90% conversion rate, that's next level transformation. Michael Bettersworth, CMO at Texas State Technical College, shares how they achieved this by streamlining the application process with Element 451.
Our Element journey began out of a necessity. We were switching to a new SIS, and the application process was going to pose some real usability issues for us. We felt that application was going to hamper our enrollment. So we began quickly to evaluate different CRMs, different applications. So for context on that, our conversion rate with the prior application had about 75% abandonment of people clicking apply to submit. And the first weeks after going live with Element, we saw an 80% conversion, and that's now up to 90. So improving the usability of that application on the front end process has had a significant advance in our intake.
When technology works for students, it works for you. Visit element451.com to see how simplifying the application process with artificial intelligence will lead to significant results for your institution. Welcome to another episode of The Hidden Gem. I'm your host, Maya Demishkevich, and today we are tackling one of the biggest challenges in higher education, student retention. While recruitment often takes center stage, the real question is, how do we help students stay, succeed, and graduate? Joining me is Julio Vargas-Essex, VP of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management at North Hennepin Community College. Julio is a seasoned leader in higher education and co-author of the research project called Stop, Drop, and Enroll, Increasing Student Persistence through Strategic Partnerships. So in this episode, we'll uncover barriers to student persistence and dive into practical solutions that can transform the student experience and boost retention at your institution. Don't forget to share this podcast with your colleagues and give us a rating on the platform of your choice. Let's dive in. Welcome to The Hidden Gem, your go-to podcast that shines a spotlight on the strategic role of marketing and communications in shaping the future of community colleges. I'm your host, Maya Demishkevich, CMO at Carroll Community College. Every week, I sit down with community college leaders and industry experts to unpack strategies that work. We'll discuss practical insights and success stories to help you elevate your institution's profile and achieve your strategic goals. Tune in to amplify your community college's success, one conversation at a time. The Hidden Gem is part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. And let's get started. I'm very excited to have Julio Vargas-Essex as my guest today. He is a VP of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management at North Hennepin Community College. So, Julio, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
You have a lot of experience in higher education in a variety of different roles. You are also a published researcher and author. So we'll dive into your research that was about retention, and it's called Stop, Drop, and Enroll.
You got it.
Yep. So I'm super excited to find out. I've read the research, so I'm hoping that we have a good discussion, and I'm sure that a lot of people will find it valuable because I do see a shift. And more resources are going towards retention, especially with some community colleges who have free community college offering, right?
Yeah.
It's not as difficult to get students to come to the college, but retaining them and making sure they graduate and are successful has always been a challenge. And I'm glad that there's more focus on this area.
This research actually started from a very similar situation as this, as colleagues and friends coming together to have a conversation about what's going on in our current world of higher education. And after a number of really open and vulnerable and authentic conversations and dialogue around this, uh, us and a sister institution within our system, Hennepin Technical College, which is literally a block or about a mile away from us. We do get confused a lot. We get phone calls from both institutions. So we thought, why not work together? And also in partnership with a local nonprofit organization called the Brooklyn Park Youth Alliance. This nonprofit organization focuses on empowering and providing access to our youth within the Brooklyn Park area. And we just decided that we needed to change something and ask the right questions of what we needed to change. And so that was sort of the antithesis of this research. And I can't take any credit because this conversation really started before I even got to North Hennepin. I was just lucky enough to jump on before the research and all of those pieces started moving forward. But really, this was the brainchild of some amazing folks that were already in place at all these organizations.
Well, can you share a little bit about your research? What have you done? What type of research methods have you used? And maybe what are some of the insights that you've gained?
Yeah, so the research started out to your earlier point of asking the question of why are we having such low persistent, student persistent at both North Hennepin Community College and Hennepin Technical College. This study really highlighted that 40% of our students don't persist in their second year, which results in almost $6.8 million in lost tuition revenue. Not only that, but obviously the significant impact that it has on the local economy, and more importantly, the impact that it has on those students, right? Those students leave us without any actual degree and usually with some sort of debt. And so we were finding ourselves, we were compounding a lot of the challenges that our students were coming to us were to get out of, right? Social mobility, get an education. We were compounding those situations in a really unfortunate and unexpected way. And so what we decided to do is do a comprehensive research project, but really empower our students to be at the center voice of this research. What we have found in a lot of the research that's been done before is that it usually was all led by the researchers, right? Led by some organization wanting to find out what was happening and how to address it. We said let's turn it on its head and do something maybe a little bit different and really leaning on the framework and mission of the Brooklyn Park Youth Alliance, which was about empowering youth. That was really sort of the focus and theme of this our methods and framework and approach to this research, and really allowing them to have a voice. And so you saw, as I'm sure, some really interesting methods like PhotoVoice, where it allows students to actually take pictures. You know, they say a picture's 1,000 words, and sometimes a picture is more creates more of a visual, really visual, vivid picture for individuals to really see what are the barriers that our students are dealing with. And so we ask them to take pictures of different areas across our campus within the community that represented barriers for them, and providing a brief explanation of what those barriers were. And we found such rich information from that I think is so uniquely different than what traditional research usually provides for institutions and organizations like ourselves.
Yeah, I really like looking at those pictures because they do speak to what the barriers are, and you don't always anticipate those things to be barriers, right? So visual is really important to, I think, to your research. And we will add a link to your study in the show notes so others can go and take a look at those pictures. But I think that's a great way to kind of demonstrate what the barriers are. So you've collected this data, some of the photos, and then what was your next step?
So after we gather both quantitative and qualitative data around this, we gathered it all together and really deep dived and created this comprehensive report. And then out of this report, we said, okay, we can't just collect this information and just put it on a shelf. What are we actually going to do with it? And actually, the byproduct of that was what we called the blueprint. And the blueprint was a strategic plan, a collaborative strategic plan between the three organizations involved in the original research around this. And what we did is we focused it on the high level barriers, right? And how we could collaborate, share best practices, look at an assortment of different techniques that we could, maybe partner on and leverage to really start addressing some of the barriers and themes that we saw across the research. And what we found, which aligns really well with a lot of the literature around there, was, our students cited financial challenges, right? Affordability, but also difficulty balancing school with work, scheduling conflicts. A lot of our students nowadays come to us with a life outside of higher ed, right? I tell folks all the time that students aren't looking to fit their life around their educational experience. They're looking for their educational experience to fit around their life. And so it's a different model where a lot of post-secondary institutions really treated students of, if we build it, they will come. Well, now with all the available options and opportunities for our students, but on top of that, the life circumstances that they come to us, whether it's financial need, basic needs, academic needs, all of these things I think are different and significantly at a higher level for our students today. And the great news is that there seems to be a stronger self-advocacy from our students, which has been really extremely helpful in helping us identify strategies and tactics to address those barriers.
So it sounds like most of the findings do align with the literature, but were there any surprises that you
Yeah,
did not expect?
there were a few, but I think the biggest one for us was the question around college readiness.
Mhm.
We asked students and faculty and staff what their perception was of whether they felt the students that we were receiving were college ready. And we
Mm.
found that 68% of the students that responded said, yes, we feel prepared,
Mhm.
where only 17% of faculty felt that their students were prepared. And so you think about self-fulfilling and self-sustaining prophecy, right? Or imposter syndrome, all of these things, right? I'm a student and I think I'm ready. And then I jump into this new and different world and I'm trying to be successful, but the individuals that are supposed to be resources and support mechanisms for me don't necessarily believe that I am ready for this experience or that I should be there. And so, you get this juxtaposition where the perception of the student doesn't align with the faculty member, and then that faculty member is then engaging, whether it's conscious or unconscious bias, and creating this atmosphere that the student then feels like, oh, I guess you're saying I'm not ready and you're the professional, so I guess I'm not ready. And so
Mhm.
then you see these patterns of behavior, and then all of a sudden a life situation happens, like all of us, right? And then the snowball effect happens, right? Well, I don't have maybe the confidence then to be successful, to be able to
Mhm.
navigate this challenge successfully, because the folks around me aren't necessarily don't have the same belief in me moving forward. So that was a really surprising aha moment for us of like, oh my gosh, to your earlier point, we're a community college, we're an open access institution. So the students that we're getting a lot of times are looking for, either a second chance, or they're, trying to build their competency, their confidence to move on to a 4-year school, and to know that we're maybe, setting them up, lack of a better term, was really alarming to us.
That's a very insightful finding. You wouldn't have known it without this research, right? Because it's not obvious. That's
Yeah.
not the question we usually ask our students. So you have identified certain barriers. What did you do next? What are the strategies that your college have maybe designed to improve those challenges and maybe address some of those barriers?
Yeah, one of the big barriers that we found out right away then too, right, based off of that feedback and research, we said, okay, academic preparation and holistic support, basic needs. Those two items, those two themes seem to be persistent throughout this research. And so we really did our due diligence at looking both at local models but external models of how are institutions addressing similar challenges for their students. And so we focused on a number of different strategies and tactics, but the bigger ones that we did across both campuses, focusing primarily first on basic needs. So we made investments around our mental health services. So we hired social workers. We hired more mental health therapists. We opened food cupboards. We created resource centers such as parenting resource centers, mental health center. So all encompassing holistic support services around basic needs really became a priority for us. So we went after local and national grants to really start building up the resources. We got creative and asked our students if we could leverage some of our health fees, some of our student fees to make investments in positions. And so we really try to think outside of the box as it relates to finding resources to supplement what we needed. And I'm so proud to say that the result for us at North Hennepin, we have been recognized as a hunger-free campus, which is a recognition from Lead MM, which is our statewide student organization for community and technical colleges. We've also received recognition from the city of Brooklyn Park around the great work we've done, and we've raised almost $2 million in grants as well as donations to supplement that work over the last several years. So that's been that one really exciting piece of that. And then transitioning into the academic support area, we realized, things like guided pathways model was a really successful model that has been implemented across community colleges, where it provides more of a prescriptive, proactive approach at advising and guiding students through different educational pathways at your institution. So focusing on those high attrition points or those high risk points that students experience and figuring out creative stack tactics and strategies to address those things, which I'll talk about a little bit more about how our advising team had an instrumental part in doing that. But that changed, how we collaborated across departments. That changed. We developed success teams, which were cross-functional teams of individuals and departments across the institution, collaborating, developing engagement campaigns, communication campaigns, assigning advisors to specific programs and majors, moving away from the generalist perspective, and completely revamping our orientation and new student orientation and onboarding process. And so those things were really big for us, and I think have been really instrumental in helping us move the institution in the right direction. And then the last piece that I'm so proud of is our peer mentoring programs. One of our more successful peer mentoring programs has been our Be Bold, Break the Mold peer mentoring program, which focuses on specifically non-traditional. It started off with women in non-traditional fields like construction management, business. We've added another component where it focuses on young men in non-traditional fields, and we connect these individuals with mentors within the field, and we actually compensate the student and the mentor for being in this program. So we are addressing that quote unquote financial need that a lot of our students mentioned was a barrier for them before.
That's amazing. Congratulations to your team. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. And it's some of those programs are very innovative. Like I've never heard about this peer advisory.
Yeah.
Is it peer to peer or peer advisory? What is it called?
It's both. So it's peer to peer, but it's
Uh-huh.
also mentor to peer. So what we
Okay.
have
Yeah.
students that mentor each other, but then we have professionals that are in those fields of interest of those students mentoring them as well. And so the goal is so for example, for Be Bold Break the Mold, we are focusing on young women in non-traditional fields like I mentioned, construction, engineering, the sciences. What we then try to do is identify female identifying individuals in those fields that can actually talk about their personal experiences and connecting with those students as well. So it's this sort of tri model of peer to peer, mentor to peer. We bring in guest speakers talking about empowerment, talking about imposter syndrome, and helping these young individuals. We mentioned one of the surprises, right, was 68% of our students thought they were ready, and then 14% of faculty didn't. Well, we needed to change that mindset of our students, and we really focusing on sort of this strengths-based framework and bringing in folks that could show them like, you can do this. I did this. I
Mm-hmm.
was sitting in your seat just, a couple of years ago and had the same struggles that you had, but I leaned on people maybe outside of the classroom, within my community or within these types of networks that helped me be successful in my own educational career.
The support network for students and having those people in their life to show them that it is possible and supporting them on their journey, I think that's what makes it possible in many cases, right? Because it's so easy to give up and, feel like you're not worthy or maybe you're not good enough to get this education. So, programs like that, I think, are extremely impactful, but I would imagine they are somewhat challenging to manage, right? Trying to connect the right people and making sure that those relationships happen and they continue. Do you have a dedicated person managing this particular program?
We do, and that to your point is was the catalyst for this. We started off actually it was a position that we shared with Hennepin Tech, and it's actually a program that we actually collaborate with Hennepin Technical College on as well. And so they have a group of students that are participating on their campus as well in the program. But we have a centralized individual that focuses on their one of their main responsibilities is coordinating the program. And to your point, it is very challenging. Like you said, getting folks engaged from the student perspective, that was one of the reasons we implemented a financial incentive. So if students
Hmm.
attend so many sessions and do, what the expectations of them are, they receive financial benefits. So, what we were finding a lot of times for students, it was, well, I got to leave my job and I need the hours because I need to
Hmm.
pay my bills. Well, okay, what if we give you, funding that will cover that, hour to 2 hours that you'll miss from work, but still have financial support. And then the other side of it is the mentor side, specifically the professional mentor, finding folks that look and identify with our students. That's one of the reasons we started it, because there aren't a lot of folks that identify in those fields, and so those individuals are in high demand, and so getting them to be able to find a little bit of time in their schedule to participate and be engaged is a challenge. And then just managing expectations across the board, right? And all the other fun stuff, programming and events. They actually did a field trip to 3M here in the Twin Cities. As you know, we have a number of Fortune 500 companies here in the Twin Cities. So we try to take students to 3M, Medtronics, Best Buy, Target, to really then get that hands-on experience and see themselves on those campuses. I think really resonates with those students.
Can we talk a little bit about the changes you've made to the onboarding process as part of this initiative? I'm curious what it looks like now.
Yeah, it looks significantly different. So one of the things that we recognized right off the bat was our orientation model. We realized that like most institutions, right, you try to cram as much knowledge and information to a student's brain within, a day or just a few days, and then there's this expectation that they'll remember all of that stuff when
Right.
they need it, when obviously they won't. And then the other part of that, right, is a lot of institutions utilize their LMS, their learning management system, to supplement any sort of quizzes or online components to it. And what we were finding was our students were coming to us and going, I don't know how to use your LMS system. I don't know how to use, access and log in. And so right off the bat, we were already creating these barriers for these students on being able to just even access the orientation, the online orientation component. So one of the things we did pretty quickly after a number of conversations, we shifted our online orientation component to a more student user centered focused platform over the last several years. And it's been great because we've been able to incorporate more interactive content, so videos of our students, videos in the classroom of our faculty, shorter, more interactive quizzes and content, but not feeling overwhelming and inundated. And then as part of that process, what we did is we called it extended orientation. So the expectation is not only will you get this information at a certain period of time before you start on our campus, then as you start your first semester with us, we're going to have friendly reminders for you. So every Sunday we send out what we call just-in-time reminders, and this is where our marketing team has had a really active role in. They collect all of the information. They work with our dean of student development and send it out on behalf of the college. And so every Sunday, here are the deadlines you need to remember. Hey, are you struggling with this? Here's some really great resources for you. And so, supplementing that, hey, we know that you're going to get this, mandatory orientation, but we also recognize that you're not going to remember everything. And so, we're now providing over the last several years this just-in-time information for students. In addition to supplement that, we send out a student needs assessment to all of our new students. And so every new student to our college gets a 5-question survey that we leverage it to provide proactive response and follow-up. So the students respond to this survey. The survey is through a platform called Qualtrics, and that system allows us to automate responses. And so whatever they indicated, and we based it actually off of these themes that we identified in this research, they then get an automated email that provides them with specific resources around those issues, but also tells them somebody from North Hennepin will be contacting you in 7 to 10 business days. We usually get to them a little bit sooner because we send out a weekly, actually bi-weekly, so twice a week report to the appropriate stakeholders to follow up with these students. So not only are we, responding immediately, we're letting you know somebody will actually be contacting you as well. And we found a lot of really great success with that, and have been leveraging that data to make certain structural and process changes that I think have really benefited our students.
Struggling to make sense of endless research? At the AI Engage Summit, you will get hands on tutorials and meet Notebook LM, Google's AI assistant that transforms complex information like academic papers and lecture videos into content that will engage your target audience. The event is free and virtual, so register now at enrollify.org/engage. I love the idea of just in time, extended orientation. How long are you doing it for once they
The,
start their
the,
classes?
the entire semester.
Okay, so the
So,
first
and
semester.
Yep. Well, and actually, the just-in-time communications goes out to all students, so
Right.
both new and continuing. So for example, we do it in the fall, but we also do it in the spring, and we also do it in the summer. So it's every week, and it's always funny when I'm talking to students, and I'm referencing something, and they go, "Oh yeah, that was in the just-in-time email." I'm like, "Yep, you're reading it, great." But we've learned a lot from that too, right? Our marketing team has leveraged the data that we've received from that to customize and make changes to those communications based off of what students were clicking on, based off of the feedback we were receiving from different constituent groups, and so we've made a lot of really great modifications to that. And then we also, in addition to not just sending just-in-time emails to students, we also send just-in-time communications to faculty. So now faculty can also, hey, it's week 2, your student might be struggling a little bit with this. Just a reminder, you can encourage them to access tutoring, or if they need support with a care center team, or hey, there's a reminder of this deadline, if you could let the students know about those things. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback from that. I've had faculty say I literally copy and paste stuff from those emails and put them in, my classroom announcements online. Those multiple engagement points have been really fantastic for us. And then, of course, our mobile app is another really big tool for us that we utilize to get information out to students.
I love those ideas. I'm probably going to take them back and steal them.
Help yourself. Help yourself.
But let's talk a little bit about your marketing team. I know before this call we chatted, and in your case, the marketing team reports to you. That's true for many colleges. Marketing teams are not always focused on retention. Very often, the priority for them is recruitment. But in your case, since they report to you and you had such a big emphasis on retention, they probably had to shift a bit to help support all of those initiatives. So, can you talk a little bit about their role in retention and communication with students? And were there any challenges, any things that they had to overcome or adjust? What was it like?
You hit it right on the head. Most marketing departments for institutions, post-secondary institutions, their focus is new students, recruitment. Recognizing, though, my philosophy has always been, when we approach any sort of situation, we should be looking at the entire student life cycle, right? Because everything we do at each point in time in the student life cycle has a ripple effect on their journey later on down the road. And so in working with our marketing team, one of the things that, of course, that they needed more support around was just physical bodies, human capital, right? And so we made some investments in some positions to help with specifically our digital and web. We recognized right away most of our students, right? Most folks are accessing information from a smart device, specifically a smartphone. And so we knew that we needed to dial that up, and we knew that we needed the resources in place to make sure that consistent messaging, the content, all of those things were coming from a strategic place, and we had the expertise and knowledge from somebody that could focus on that to really help us move the needle forward. The time was actually perfect because we were going through a new strategic plan, and one of our strategic directions was branding. And so not only was I shifting us to focus more on retention, but we were going through a complete rebranding campaign, and then that fell into a whole web redesign. So in the last 6 years, my poor, small but mighty marketing department has gone through a lot. But it has allowed us to really be able to be active in all of those different. And so one of the things that I really wanted our marketing team to be involved in right off the bat was any communication that was coming out of departments, I wanted our marketing team to be able to provide feedback and guidance on. Because our marketing team really are experts in messaging, right? Experts in content. And some of our departments, that might not be their expertise. And so what we realized is we wanted to start sending out messages that were engaging, that we could do analytics on, that we could, redirect to certain maybe landing pages or microsites or customized digital marketing aspects. And so that required, though, a lot of collaboration, right? If you want to do this campaign, well, okay, how does marketing support that and make sure not only is the content that you're sending out through an email campaign, a texting campaign, is relevant and engaging, and we can do analytics on it, but then where we're redirecting them, right? The actual web page itself, is that information clear and student-centered and leveraging universal design? And so that was really sort of the shift, right? There's a lot of times folks would just, here's my content, and our marketing team would try to make some adjustments, but it was really, that department could dictate what was or wasn't in certain aspects. And so I just flipped that on its head. I said our marketing team in some ways will be a little bit of a gatekeeper, not so stringent where folks didn't have some level of creativity and autonomy, but we wanted consistent messaging. And it was great because, like I mentioned, we were going through rebranding, so I could really leverage our new branding standards and say, hey, if we want to have this and we spent all this money on this, these are some best practices around this. And we had a third party consultant, right, give us, a great guidelines and manuals and all of that good stuff. And so we were able to shift that slowly but surely, that culture on our campus, and they've had a really active role in that. And so whether it's helping departments create content. So, for example, our guided pathways model and framework that we implemented, our success teams were tasked with developing targeted communications, targeted emails. So, back to the onboarding of students, one of the things that we thought would be very advantageous of, hey, I'm a art student. Well, wouldn't it be great if as an art student, you got started getting really customized, targeted communications from the art department, encouraging you to engage with them, engaging in student success tactics. And so we've been piloting in that over the last year and a half, and continuing to grow that. And what we have found is really great engagement because our students feel like this communication is really customized towards me and my interests. And our marketing team has really had an instrumental role in that.
I feel for your marketing team. Doing a web redesign, rebrand, transitioning to retention efforts. That's a lot. Congrats to them and for surviving and thriving. Because I can imagine it was a lot. Can we talk a little bit about your mobile app? I honestly have not seen colleges that have a mobile app that's being used. Many colleges launch mobile app with the best intentions in mind, but it often fails because adding an additional channel that people have to download and get used to using is challenging. So I'm curious, what was it like for you? Is it a successful initiative? Is it something you recommend? And how did you encourage the use of the app?
I have to put a disclaimer. I have a love-hate relationship with our mobile
Got
app.
it. Okay. Okay.
To your question, when we revamped our new orientation and student onboarding process, extended orientation, we really started to hammer home the mobile app. And so what we require of all new students is they have to meet with an academic advisor before they register for classes. We prefer for them to come in person and do that, but we do meet virtually with students. And part of that conversation and meeting is, hey, we have a mobile app. You should download it. Here are all the great things that can happen with it. Our wonderful marketing team has also been instrumental in downloads, and so we've created campaigns with financial incentives again for students. If you upload and download and log in, you'll be entered in for a drawing for this prize, and we run analytics on that, and we've seen good return on that. And so to your point, the biggest challenge for us has been managing it. And so we created a working group that really is co-led by our director of marketing as well as our director of student life. And they kind of keep an eye on it. And that's where sort of the hate aspect of it for me, and it's such a strong word, but because we've had pretty good success with it, we have this challenge of where one of the things that's accessible for our students is a discussion board, right, of
Hmm.
where they can kind of ask questions, put out thoughts and ideas, which is wonderful, right, if you're not dealing with controversial, polarizing situations. And so you're always doing this balancing act of managing, freedom of speech, student rights, while at the same time making sure that folks, aren't offended, that discourse is, collegial and professional, and then the bandwidth to manage all of that. And so we've created guidelines for folks, mobile app guidelines, that we share and communicate out with students on a regular basis. And knock on wood, We've for the most part, and we've had the mobile app for a number of years now, even before I joined the organization. We haven't had a lot of significant issues where I know some institutions have had some challenges, whether engaging students in it or just managing some of the conversations that happen on it. But it's because we've had a collective, very intentional group making sure that they're monitoring and creating tactics to support engagement around it.
Okay. So just to clarify, so you're using Discord as part of the discussion board in the
Yep.
app? Is that
Yep.
how? Okay.
Yeah. So, it's great because as a student, you can see everything from, hey, I need a roommate, anybody,
Yeah.
looking for somewhere to stay, or hey, I'm struggling in the class. Does anybody, have any recommendations? So it's been a wonderful avenue for our students to connect in a different way and
Mm-hmm.
and develop relationships. It's our student groups get to make announcement about events and programming, but then at the same time we also then get to supplement with push notifications. Hey, registration's coming up. Hey, financial aid deadlines are coming up. So it's been a really great another great tool for us to again supplement a lot of the different communication channels that we're leveraging right now. It definitely doesn't come without its challenges.
Right. Well, I can imagine moderating those discussions can be definitely a challenge. Yet there's a lot of value in it. So the management of those two things is, I can see it. I can see it.
It has, and one of the things actually that was great that we've actually developed out of it is part of our leadership development programming for all of our student orgs has
Mm-hmm.
incorporated now communication. How do I engage with individuals on digital platforms, face to face, and doing it in a constructive and collegial way? We've incorporated on that, and so now our student leaders on our campus are now champions and allies. And so a lot of times we don't even have to say anything or do anything because we have a student leader that'll say, hey, that's, just a
Right.
reminder that's a violation of this guideline, blah, blah, blah. So it's actually been fun to kind of see them kind of manage each other in a way that doesn't seem such
Right.
authoritarian
Right.
of the school telling us not to do something. So.
Yeah, it's a similar approach I take on social media. If somebody posts like a negative comment, I don't jump in right away. I wait for others to contribute, and usually that works out well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it sounds like you've done a lot over the last 5 years, a lot of different initiatives. What are your plans moving forward?
For us, and I think my team is tired of me telling this or saying this, stay in the course.
Okay.
I think right now there's so much happening both locally and nationally, and we're actually going through a new strategic planning process right now. And so, what I'm trying to just get our folks to focus on is let's focus on what we can control, focus on the things that we've been doing and building on those things, as other things unfold and progress. Because a lot of the work that we're doing, right, is focused on things that will always be a need for our campus. So even if there's changes at a local level or a national level, retention is always going to be a critical component for us, right? Guided pathways, the work that we're doing around that is also going to be a critical initiative for us. Equity-centered communication is also going to be important for us. So all of the things that we have established. Right now, it's more so of how do we continue to build and enhance those things, and then put so that we position ourselves in a space that if things do change or modify, we're able to adapt to those things. And so whether it's finding cost-effective ways to implement a strategy or tactic, developing partnerships not only internally but externally with organizations that you can build strategies and tactics with, like we've done through the original research that we discussed earlier. And so those are the things that I've been really trying to focus our team on is let's finish up our current strategic plan. Let's, stay the course and prepare ourselves for what may be coming down the road, both from a local and national level.
Right. Wow. Wow. I am so glad we had this conversation. So many great ideas, and I'm sure others found some nuggets of information or something they can steal and take to their institution. That's the purpose of this podcast, is to share information. So, Julio, I want to thank you for joining me today, for taking the time on this Friday afternoon after work. Everybody's tired, but our work continues. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this and having these discussions. They're so important. A lot of the things that we created here, other institutions, we borrowed and stole from other institutions as well. And so what I would just tell folks is continue to do your due diligence, but give yourself grace and gratitude. Grace to try things that are different and unique and to fail gracefully, but also celebrate the small wins and small victories as you go through this process, because sometimes as higher education institutions, we focus so much on the things that are wrong or not working, that we ignore the successes and really then emphasizing how do we just repeat that success then instead of repeating the failures.
Right.
And so my team again gets tired of me and all my little sayings, but grace and gratitude is one of our mottos as a division. And I think that's really helped us navigate some really challenging times that are not just impacting us, but impacting higher ed as a national and international situation.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable. Let's keep this conversation going on LinkedIn at Maya Demishkevich. I would love to hear your thoughts, questions, and suggestions for what you would like to see next on this podcast. Remember, by tuning in to The Hidden Gem, you are not just listening to a podcast, you are joining a movement of amplifying community college success. Don't miss out. Subscribe to this podcast and notifications about our future episodes. Share it with your colleagues and college leaders to help make our colleges stand out. Together, let's make an impact. The Hidden Gem is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you will like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher education technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Jenny Fowler, Eddie Francis, Brian Gross, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.